Aloha. Today's episode is brought to you by the University of Hawaii, College of Tropical Agriculture and Human Resources, and the Seeds of Wellbeing, or SOW project. This podcast is supported by the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network, FRSAN grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and the Hawaii Department of Agriculture.
Aloha. Welcome everyone to the SOW podcast, aimed to provide educational support, information, guidance, and outreach to farmers, ranchers, and our allied agriculture producers in Hawaii. We are your hosts, Oshiro and
Shannon Sand.
And today we're going to be talking to Dr. Thao Lee, who works in the areas of mindfulness. And we've had her on the podcast before. She is the lead for our project, the SOW project. And we thought this time of year would be a great time to have her on to talk about dealing with the holiday stress.
Yes.
So thank you, Thao, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
So it's that time of year again, right? Where we start to see, hopefully be able to see our friends and family, have more gatherings, add more things into our schedule. And, and it gets really tight and busy, especially if you're working, with family or little ones and whatnot. Scheduling during the holidays is always can be very stressful.
Are you speaking from a little bit of experience here?
A little bit of experience having two little ones at home that are going to school and I think opening up of travel too. I think more family members are coming home or coming by, for visits and staying and stuff. So, producers deal with a lot of stress during this time because they're not just dealing with now production stuff.
Yeah. Family stuff.
Yeah,
and community stuff, because the community's got a lot going on too. So yeah.
So trying to make everyone's, I think, schedules work, making sure you have free time, making sure you meet the commitments that you have, can be very stressful for producers, I think, during this time. So, and
the weather yesterday didn't help all that much.
No,
exactly. The weather. And I think you guys are getting more of it right now. We kind of had our bit on the Big Island, and it's kind of going your way now.
Yeah. So when it's a little bit, it's okay, right? But when there's a deluge, we're like overwhelmed and flooded. So I think when you're talking about the holidays, sometimes feel like a deluge, right?
Exactly.
All these families coming, work is, gifts I gotta go buy, parties I gotta host, and some family members you want to see, others you don't, but yet you feel guilty that right?
All of those things, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So how do you deal with all of that? Managing your schedules, managing everything, and most importantly, managing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And your well-being is probably a very important thing. So, what kind of things can we, or can you offer, I guess, Thao, ideas on how our producers can help to manage? I mean, we can tell them, do your record keeping, do everything ahead of time, and, have those things set in place on, in Shannon and I's background. And that's kind of what we would, how we would help them deal with stress. But how do they help deal with them mentally, in keeping that health for them?
Yeah, so if you really look at the root cause of stress in terms of what triggers you, it's usually around expectations, right? So we expect during the holidays that we're supposed to be generous and gift giving. We're supposed to have all our loved ones around, but not all of us. Right. It's all and
I was like, that makes a lot of sense. The expectation thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel that one.
Yeah, even rituals, which are wonderful, right? Even the rituals, which should be wonderful opportunities to remember the gratitude and generosity and the kindness of what Christmas or the holidays or, Hanukkah or whatever sort of religious, spiritual orientation it still has all these expectations of I should be a certain way. So in what I would say is, this is a wonderful time too, because it's around the winter where bears hibernate or animals slow down. It actually is an opportunity for us to do inspectation, right? Not expectations.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Well, that's what I call it, right? Because I'm like, the animals in the animal kingdom, they have it right. It's like it's time to just rest. But we do the opposite. It's time to get busy and battle with everybody at the shopping mall. Right? Like,
well, I'm really an online shopper nowadays.
I think a lot of folks have online shop now. It is more convenient.
Especially
but
here.
Then you still kind of miss out on some of the good stuff if you don't go in there for,
Right. You don't want to be fear of missing out, right?
Yeah.
FOMO, yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to miss the deals, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of what we do with inspectation is very first to notice what is triggering you, right? What is triggering you to feel like the sense of anxiety or what I have to do? I don't have enough time. And how do we know what's triggering us? Well, before it jumps out, it's this opportunity for us to notice what's going on in the body, because the body tells you right away what's going on, and we don't really pay attention.
That's true.
Right.
I feel that when I'm like,
because you're so busy. Like, I know what, I'll take care of my body. I'll drink enough. I gotta hydrate. I've got all these things I gotta do, and then your body just sort of shuts down, and you're like, oh my goodness, like what's going on? Because sometimes during the holidays, because there's people gathering indoors, and if you're not healthy, you can easily catch the cold or the flu. And now we've got these other variants, so
yeah,
you can be very prepared mentally, because your body and your gut and your mind, it's all interrelated. So when you have a trigger, it's an opportunity, like the bear, to slow down and notice what's talking. Is it my stomach? Is my jaw getting really tight? Is my eyeballs all like dilated because I'm like, oh my God, right? Am I getting headaches more?
Oh,
or am I just gonna shut down? Right? Because we all have different ways in which we deal with these triggers of expectation.
Yeah, that's true.
It's actually a retreat. I'm just gonna forget it. It's too overwhelming. I'm just gonna put a barrier. Don't even bother. Right? I'm not gonna respond to anybody text and email. So we have different ways in which we respond based on our conditioning and habit patterns. Some of us are like very vocal and in your face. Others just kind of shut down and retreat.
That I was like, that's amazing. The idea of an inspectation. I hope I said that right. I was like, it's just
yeah.
Because otherwise I will say sometimes I go so much and then I end up I don't know if it's getting sick, but sometimes I'll just my body's like, no, you need to nap. It's time to take a break. And I've been known to go and go until I end up just getting so sick or exhausted that I'm like, burp, night. It's it happens.
That's me.
Not good, but it does happen.
And we talked about that before, right? You just you don't always put yourself first. Yeah. And you just kind of think, no, because I need to get this done. I need to go here. I need to do this. And you just work down that list of tasks that you have to do. And never mind if you are living on a gallon of caffeine for the day to get it done or whatever, right? You just kind of do it. So some people put so much pressure, right, on themselves to kind of have that, make all the commitments that is offered to them, right? Or take up all those offerings and whatnot. And, so I guess that's another big thing, right? Is how do you relieve some of that pressure of feeling like you have to be committed or you have to participate?
That's true. Because it's really good to say that we should do all this, but it's hard to be how do you actually draw? Say no,
right?
No.
Well,
I was like, do you see? I'm hard.
Right, because it has to do again with the expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have all these, particularly around the holidays, you have had these expectations for yourself, and you have expectations for your families and for your friends, right? There are these and sometimes it's not so explicit, they're subtle, because it's around the holidays and everybody's got this sort of shared meaning and interpretation about rituals. Yeah. This gift giving, right? I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got to make sure I've got, the right gift for my best friend. Otherwise she might be disappointed. So part of what we do with inspectation is just to notice and then be kind to yourself. Nice. Okay, right? Because it's more important that there's so many ways to share. And in our society, we've gone so much in terms of commercialization, but the way that we share is presence and time and words.
As I've gotten older, that is one thing I will say that I think I value more and more. I love stuff, don't get me wrong, but I have a lot of it. At my age, I've accumulated a decent amount. And I don't know, when I go home, I was I always tell my family not to buy presents. I was like, let's just like go out to eat or order in, or depending on the situation or whatever. It was like my dad and I, like, our Christmas ritual is we don't buy presents. I was like, we smoke meat together, which depending on where you're from may be weird, but I see Melanie shaking her head like, yeah. I was like, that's it. Like our time.
Right.
It's funny because our family does the same thing.
Me, like one of the best times I have is doing stuff like that, or like baking cookies with my mom. I like, those are like my favorites.
Yeah, like my niece and nephew visits usually during the holiday because they live in Canada, so of course they escape from the cold weather. And I tell them, I'm gonna give you, like, the greatest present you're gonna get is what? Presents, not present. Presents. So we share time and experiences together. Presents.
The experiencing is so good, especially now that my nieces and nephews are older, but even when they were younger, like to them, that's some of their best like memories at this point. They've told me so. I'm like, I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's creating memories. So taking the time to, and sometimes we feel like we don't have enough time. So that's another expectation.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And then feeling guilty that you don't have enough time for others.
Right.
But sometimes you need to carve that time out for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very important, right? Stop, take a breath. Learn to slow down, learn that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take that 10 minutes or whatever for yourself or an hour or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah.
The animals do it. And we are like, we've got all the elements of nature. So why don't
we are technically animals, to be honest. I was like, people sometimes don't like to refer to it that way. I was like, realistically. Yeah.
We're made of the same thing. Earth, water, fire, We're all the same. So, and they just instinctually know it's time to rest.
Yeah.
And hibernate, to restore and rejuvenate. Because sometimes during the holidays, we feel exhausted because we posted so many activities and done so many things, right?
That's very true, and that's typically after the New Year's when everybody just goes, and we all just kind of shut down and be like, okay.
I saw a meme the other day and I can't remember it exactly, but was basically, it said something along the lines, if you look forward to the holidays because like that's your like time to recharge or time off or whatever, then like you probably need to look at other things, basically kind of the inspectation idea. And I was just like, it's one of those things that like, I'm not remembering it exactly, but like it stuck with me. And it's like, oh, that's like a really good point, because like, if you're so exhausted by the time you get to the holidays that you need to do nothing rather than enjoy the time with like your friends and family, like, and then like as a farmer, a rancher, ag producer in general, I was like, they're already rushing so much just to like, feed, clothe, provide, whatever services or goods. And it's like, it's just a stressful time for them in general. I feel like,
and the holidays in particular have been shown for, can also aggravate the sense of loneliness. So even though you're surrounded by people, you can feel lonely. And some of us don't have families, or even though we have families, we don't consider them really close. They don't understand us. They don't get us. So we can aggravate that loneliness.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I think that's true. Yeah. And I think that's kind of some of the stuff we were hoping that you could talk about. Like, what are some ways to deal with some of these things? Like, I love the inspectation because I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to do that one. I was like,
so I'll just give you like maybe just 4 tips around the inspectations. Like, so you just take the steps, like step 1, you identify and notice. Like right now, if I were to ask you, well, what are you noticing, Shannon and Mele? 3 things with your eyes. What do you see? Can you name 3 things? Right. 3 things that's happening in your body right now. Is there a tension in your shoulders, your jaw, your head? Right. Just notice. Just stop. Notice. Right. And then if you can just, as you notice that the breath arrives, and the breath is natural. It's there always with you. And we often take it for granted. So notice the breath. Because the breath, when you're breathing, puts you into this moment right now. So you're not planning for the future, because who knows what's going to happen in the future. And the past already had, in the past, which is what Panda, Kung Fu Panda said. Right? That's this moment right now. So the breath brings you right now. What's going on? What are my expectations? Leave those expectations down right now. And so when we name our emotions and we name what we're feeling, there's this term called name to tame. The minute you name something, it actually tames it, because it's when we disregard it or we avoid it or we suppress it that makes it stronger. So the minute, like if you're angry, yes, I'm so angry right now, my jaw's really tight, my clenched fist, and I've got all these words that's like in my mind, just name it. This is what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is going on. Right? Name it. I'm irritated because I have this expectation that this person should do this and that person should do, right? Just name that.
Yeah.
Recognize that expectation and then listen to what your body's telling you as you're able to slow down. Right? If the mind, sometimes the mind, even though we're stopping, the mind is like churning like crazy, like a train. Right.
Right.
Sometimes at 2 a.m. when we don't want to do. Yeah.
Right. And so what I like to share a bit about is like how do we sort of gently allow that mind to slow down? And one of which is to send it lots of kindness, because we often so hard on ourselves with all these expectations that we should do this and we should be better. And so we need to make sure to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And as you're kind, you can say, oh, my body is really aching. Oh, my poor body. I'm going to be kind to you. I'm just going to stop by now. Get that cup of tea or whatever it is you would like to drink. Hopefully it's healthy for your body.
I was going to say juice. I was like, it's juice today.
And then reflecting. So because you slow down, it allows you to reflect, which opens up creativity and problem solving options. Because when you're in a hyper mode, you're not being creative. You're just dealing with the stressor, and sometimes unskillfully. So when you reflect, it gives you that bandwidth to explore different options.
That makes sense. You know, when I have to I have a big project or something that I'm doing, I need to go and like clean up the desk. And I almost feel like that's kind of the same thing when you feel like you're just overloaded with all these different things that you need to do. You almost need to clean up your mind, right?
Yeah, clearing the space.
Yes, clear up that space and just kind of stop, take a minute to let's prioritize whatever you need to do and just focus on that one thing, you know. And that's a very good point, because we do it all the time. Just kind of forget about what we're, ourselves, and don't take that minute. So
well, and I like to be kind to yourself. That one's a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, well, for years I did like a grateful list for like 3 years in a row, and I found like for me personally, like it's really helpful. I know it's one of those things that a lot of people are like, oh, but like it sounds crazy, but if you do get into kind of a negative mindset, I do find it really helpful. Well, it's like, you can be grateful for little things like flowers or like the sky or bacon if you're me sometimes, because it's delicious and it's amazing.
Or teeth that you can eat.
Or teeth that you can eat the bacon with.
Exactly.
Yes, all of those things. But like, it sounds silly, but it really does like help change your mindset. So, or at least for me, it's helped a lot.
Yeah, you're talking about planting the good seeds, right? Yeah. And so the seeds of the mind, which is what we have, seeds of well-being. So gratitude, appreciation, generosity.
Oh yeah, so much.
These are wonderful seeds for a healthy mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and that healthy mind is what you really need, right? That's a very important thing.
Yes.
We sometimes forget that.
Oh, final tip. I would ask you, what 3 things are you grateful for right now?
Many, many things.
Many, many things.
Well, I was going to say Thao and Mele, and then like I had dinner with my friend Joanna last night. That was amazing. So.
Oh, it's so sweet, Shannon. People, right? So people, that's.
I'm an extrovert. Yeah. I was like, it's general people.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that, for having the people around us, for sure, especially being able to be around. So it was nice having
people around. Right. You know what? I'm even grateful for this feral cat that comes around every morning and every evening. Aww. I'm actually not a cat person, but this feral cat, actually I'm grateful for this opportunity to allow me to practice taking care of a cat, even though I don't have an attachment to cats. And that experience alone, like the cat, even though it's feral, I can't touch this cat. It just eats and then it just sits there and looks at me. And we actually spend like 10, 20 minutes just looking at each other. And I actually that's a wonderful way just to pause, because the cat's actually making me pause rather than moving on to the next thing. We watch each other, we look at each other, and it's just like this connection with another being.
Nice. Yeah, I must say I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the animals for sure. I think that has always been calming thing for me no matter what. And at the periods when I didn't have my animals around, or whatnot, it's different. So I'm very grateful for that too. But
Melly's definitely an animal person.
Yeah. So the livestock agent, right?
So the next time you feel like you need to punish yourself, not punish, but like, people say punish, I'll get the 50 strokes of the cat. Pet one, pet.
Nice.
Yeah. So as frustrating as maybe the time of the year may be, because your schedules get super busy, I think Thao has made a very good tips for you to kind of deal with those stress during the holiday. Remember to take time for yourself. Your well-being is so important.
Yeah.
And, like Shannon said, take time to recognize what you're grateful for right now. Helps to just kind of remember why you're doing what you're doing, why you love doing what you're doing. Hopefully you can find some help in the tips that were shared today, and know that you're not alone. Everyone,
you are needed.
Yes. Yeah. You're
by
definitely
someone
needed.
Or something. Yes.
Yeah. Very much appreciated for all the hard work that our ag producers do, throughout the holidays and
helping to provide for all of us.
And
whether that's flowers for our soul or food for our table.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us today, Thao. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Thao.
Oh, it's a pleasure. A huge appreciation to you and to all the ag producers out there and everyone who's actually listening to this podcast.
Yeah, thank you for the thing. That's right.
Yay.
Yes.
Thank you, Thao. And as for everyone listening, be sure to visit the Seeds of Wellbeing or SOW website and our YouTube channel listed in the show notes below.
And for additional information about this topic, you can see the links provided in the show notes or the description box. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please complete our soul needs assessment. We will create the links, or the links will be there in the show notes and the description box. Thanks again for listening to the SOW podcast. And everybody have a very happy and merry holiday season to you all. Ahui ho.
Yep. Ahui ho.